Welcome to this screencast about converting measurements. Today we're going to learn about converting length, the customary system. Here's a couple of words that you must know. First, this word converting just means to change. Now, if you're familiar with the movie Transformers, you kind of know how the robots, they start off as TVs, radios, electronic devices. They start off as that, and then they transform or they change into the robots. So converting just means to change. Equivalent just means the same. So basically in this lesson what we're doing is we're getting our units of measurements and we're going to convert them, we're going to change them into equivalent measurements, but they're just written differently. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I did for you was I drew a picture of a rectangle bar here. This long rectangle bar is going to represent 1 yard. Now if you look at Buddy, 1 yard is going to equal 3 feet. So what I did to show you was I drew another rectangle underneath 1 yard, and in this rectangle, as you can see, I cut it into 3 equal pieces. Each piece is going to represent 1 foot. I have 1 foot here, another foot here, and another foot here. When I add them all up, it's 3 feet. So this is a visual representation of how 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Now at this point of the video, I would like for you to pause the video so that way you can write this down all in your math journal for notes. Here's our first example. If 1 yard equals 3 feet, here's my question to you. How much is 2 yards in feet? So let's write that out here in a sentence. Let's put here 2 yards equals blank feet. Well, this we don't know yet. We don't know how many feet are in 2 yards. So at this point, this is where we look at Buddy. Buddy tells us that, again, 1 yard equals 3 feet. Now, we don't have to memorize this because we are using Buddy, so there's no need to stress out or need to memorize this. You're always going to be able to have Buddy with you. So a way we can organize our information is we're going to go ahead and make a table. So I'm going to draw my table here, and I'm going to label this side over here yards, and the other side is going to be feet. Now what do we know so far? I know that 1 yard equals 3 feet. Okay, so here's 1 yard and it equals 3 feet. Let me go ahead and write in my units. But like our question says, we want to know how much is 2 yards. So I'm going to fill in 2 yards. And how many feet would that be? Well, a visual representation of that would be, imagine if you had this blue rectangle is going to be 1 yard. Here's another one. There are my 2 yards. Although they're not the same, let's just pretend they're exactly the same. So this is 1 yard, and here's another yard. Now what we're going to do is we need to find out 2 yards. So again, 1 yard is 3 feet, so I'm going to draw another rectangle here on the bottom. But this time, I'm going to cut this rectangle into, how many pieces do you think I'll cut this rectangle? I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces, because 1 yard equals 3 feet. So here's one piece, here's another piece, 1 foot, another foot, and another foot. All these are going to equal 3 feet. Now again, for my other yard, I'm going to go ahead and draw another rectangle. That rectangle is going to represent 3 feet. So I'm going to cut it into 3 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3. 1 foot, another foot, and another foot. And again, this whole block is going to total 3 feet. So here are my 2 yards. Now I just want to know how many feet it is. Well, real simple. Let's join these two together. 3 plus 3, that equals 6. So 2 yards is equivalent, meaning the same, to 6 feet. So I can go to my chart and put 2 yards. It's 6 feet. Now some of you, if you know your basic facts pretty well, you can say, you know what? If 1 yard equals 3 feet and I have 2 yards, you can do the multiplication way. For example, I'm going to write underneath here. 1 yard equals 3 feet, so I'm going to put 2 yards equals blank feet. So I know the measurement of one rectangle, meaning 1 yard, and it's 3 feet. So now I have 2 of them, so we can do our basic facts. We can get 3 feet. We can multiply that by 2 yards, so we can say 3 feet times 2 yards will equal 6 feet. Okay? Either method will work better for you. Okay, so let's say, what if I asked you, alright, I have 3 yards. How much is that in feet? Well, I can write it out, and we'll do the multiplication way. We can say I have 3 yards, and that equals, I don't know how many feet, that's the unknown. But I do know that 1 yard, again, equals 3 feet. So what would you do? I will get my 3 feet. I will then multiply it by 3 yards. So in essence, it will look like this. 3 feet times 3 yards, that would equal 9 feet. And it's just like a pattern counting by threes. Each one you're just adding 3. But what if I decided to trick you? What if I decided to tell you, you know what? Instead of going in order, what if I told you, how many is this in feet? If I say I have 7 yards, how much is that in feet? What would you do then? You would still do the same thing. You would say, okay, buddy, I'm dealing with yards and feet. So 1 yard equals 3 feet. Alright, so what do I know? I know 7 yards, but I don't know how many feet. What can we do? We can multiply. We're going to get our 3 feet. We are then going to multiply it by 7 yards, or 7 yards multiplied by the 3 feet. And what will that equal? 21 feet. Box in our answer. So 7 yards is equivalent to saying 21 feet. And this is pretty much simple conversions.